traversed the tombs of Naxxramas. We've climbed every cliff on Black Rock. Now the world cries out for heroes. As a new evil rises, there will be danger. There will be doom. There will be ancient temples filled with relics, treasures, and traps. Who will answer the call?
We will lead, explorers lead, and we are in need of explorers. Adventure we seek, cross land and sea. Want to come and join us?
Yes!
this Haunted Creeper, and you're going to have these Divine Shields on your Argent Horse Riders. So Kranich is going to be able to be pretty resilient as well. One Whirlwind's not going to be able to get Surrender out of this.
That Abusive Sergeant was also a nice pickup. If he chooses to, he can defeat the Acolyte of Pain, just granting only 1 card to surrender. And he will be able to play on curve there. Oh, even the bow, actually. So the bow.
Yeah, I was going to say, so... Yeah, he has like a lot of options this turn. He has the bow, which is like the cleanest way to answer Acolyte of Pain. Plus, since he still has coin, he has a lot of ways to curve out here. If he wants to, he can Piloted Shredder next turn, or he can Horse Rider plus Abusive Sergeant if he needs to trade again. Say if there's another Acolyte of Pain, he doesn't want to give up his bow just for 2 Acolytes. So, love the way that Kranich is playing this game. He just keeps giving himself the most options every turn to continue to fill out his curve.
Absolutely. And he does have the Piloted Shredder as well. So for Surrender now, he can play the weapon and, well, do what? That's the big question.
Well, here's the thing. So if he sets up the weapon, then he has Sludge Belcher next turn, but picking up Armorsmith is also a big deal for him here. So this is going to give him some staying power over the next few turns, as long as he doesn't get run over, in the next 2 turns, because he's going to be fighting his way back into this game. This Death Bite is going to allow him to take care of the Haunted Creeper and what spawns out of it, and the Leper Gnome, and possibly what comes out next from Kranich. So picking up this Armorsmith and having the Sludge Belcher for next turn is pretty good for him. It's going to allow him to get himself back in this game. But Kranich is going to have a thing or two to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kranich still has a great follow-up. And, Sludge Belcher, maybe it's not a play for turn 5 even. He will have other options. But Shredder for Kranich, a great turn 4 play, and he keeps the coin. He refuses to play another minion weak to the Death Bite's effect.
Yeah, so he has a couple options this turn. If he's just going to play the Sludge Belcher, then this is the way he's going to lead the turn here. But, there's something to be said about maybe getting the Armorsmith in play to gain an extra life here and draw an extra card off Battle Rage, but he can do that next turn with the double Whirlwind Battle Rage, and that seems like a much more powerful turn for Surrender, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to force Kranich to have to do something to get through the Sludge Belcher, and that is a 3 damage hero power from Kranich here too. Fallen Hero working some overtime here.
Yeah, it works pretty well if he wants to save resources, but after seeing the Whirlwind effect and not seeing any Whirlwinds before, he might actually go for a more aggressive stance here. And he used the hero power.
Yeah, so this is going to be not a terrible turn for Surrender. Oh, he picks up another Armorsmith. That is exactly what he's looking for here. If he wants to, he has double Armorsmith Whirlwind available to himself, but it matters how much he wants to draw extra cards. That Battle Rage is kind of messing with his curve a little bit here, because he's going to want a Doctor Boom next turn. So if he doesn't play the Battle Rage this turn, then that means that ship has sailed for multiple turns here. But I got to believe it's really hard to pass up double Armorsmith, wipe your opponent's board, and gain extra life. I mean, this is a huge turn for Surrender, getting him back into this match.
Absolutely. This is just amazing for Surrender. Double Armorsmith is what you want versus Hunter. There is a Hymen coming, but Surrender has Execute, so he will have a way to deal with it. Slamming Dr. Boom is an option as well, but then Hunter will have so much damage and you will not be able to deal with the Hymen with just Armorsmiths alone.
Yeah, and I do like actually just drawing 3 cards instead. Now he picks up the second Execute here, so he has an answer to the Hymen, but it will leave behind, the 2/2 Hounds. So Surrender has to figure out, how do I pace this game over the next 3 turns, not dying, but also he has to find a way to start trying to win, because if he just keeps, incrementally taking down the board of Kranich still has that hero power ticking every turn. Plus, he'll still get some damage in with like an Argent Horse Rider and a few attacks from his minions. So not only does Surrender have to answer this board, he has to find a way to start to pressure Kranich's life total as well. Otherwise, Kranich will eventually kill him.
Absolutely. There is a Frauding Whirlwind's kill 1 hyena, execute kill 1 hyena play that's available to him. One of the remaining hyenas will not challenge Frauding, which is actually gaining a lot of attack. So I think that's probably the play. He's also gaining a lot of health here. So going up to 21 at the moment, plus 3 more, which will be 24, right?
Yeah, love this play from Surrender. Is exactly what you said. He's going to actually put a huge threat into play. It's not directly challenged by the hyena. Abusive Sergeant, Knife Juggler can do some work here. But he also got himself back up to 24. He's almost back to his starting life total, and Kranich is running a little low on resources, compared to where he was earlier in the game. But this turn is going to be huge for Kranich, and he's going to get to weave in a hero power. So Surrender back on the back foot again, but at a little bit of a better life total than he was the turn before. And you got to believe this is going to be a Grom turn. He's going to get in here, he's going to take care of this Knife Juggler, and put another huge threat in play.
Yeah, Grom makes a lot of sense. Just getting a big creature there. Dr. Boom would be an option as well. You're taking some damage, but you have the bombs to deal with whatever is being played. You do not expect something like Hunter's Mark. I think Kranich haven't showed us Hunter's Mark yesterday, so Surrender probably watched the matches just to know what's exactly in opponent's deck.
Yeah, I wonder if, I hope Surrender did have time to do some research yesterday. We talked about it is a little bit of advantage to go last in your groups. You do get to see everything that's going on in the other games. Plus, you get to see what traps your opponents are running or what one-of tech cards that you can play around. So that's actually a pretty big thing. And that's a Wild Pyromancer. This is a card that every now and then shows up in the patron decks. It's an extra patron enabler. It's just a good card with Battle Rage and Whirlwind. You can kind of combine it as like some pseudo AoE effects and stuff. So it's a pretty interesting one. Yeah, it's insanely good versus Paladin too. I was about to get there, and it's just a good 2-drop to get on the board as well.
Absolutely, and he's going for it right now. Or is he? With Battle Rage, he'll be able to draw 2 cards. So Pyromancer into Battle Rage means that he draws 2 cards, deals with the 2/1 immediately. Let's see, what is he going to draw here? He will be able to execute the 4/3. He gets Fireworks as well. But he has to mind his health for sure.
He has to mind his health, and he has to worry about the trap as well. I think there's a chance he doesn't want to, expose himself to explosive trap just yet until he can maybe find another way to gain some life here. Because his life total is getting pretty low. He's getting at the point where, something like Animal Companion into Kill Command is actually threatening lethal over the next turn or two. So he's got to be kind of careful at managing his life total, but still trying to kill Kranich as quickly as possible.
Oh man, I just can't wait till players can play the new trap, the Dart, and just use hero power 5 damage to random enemy character.
I can't wait till there's that awkward dance in a game where someone plays a trap when someone's at right at 5, and they're like, I can't even hero power this turn. I just can't do it. I can't risk getting darted to the face. Yeah.
Well, in this case, Grom was endangered with the Dart, so that would be cool as well. All right, so 12 health, only Mad Scientist and a Secret. Not much for Kranich. He has the hero power though, which is threatening always. What can Surrender do to put himself in a better situation here? What is the secret that he's expecting?
Well, you gotta believe it's going to be something. Freezing Trap is always the first one that pops in your mind, but I think he's already checked for that one, so I think he knows that it's Explosive Trap. So he tried to see if he could get the second one out of Kranich's deck, because sometimes they only run explosive traps if it's a face variant, so you can get an extra value there. But now he's in the awkward situation where his Grom is going to get put back to his hand, so he might not be able to attack this turn with it, and he's going to actually take the line of just armoring up here along with a Pilot Shredder, which I like. I think Surrender has to armor up every turn for the rest of the game. Otherwise, he's going to have a really hard time winning this game. And that is a big draw for Kranich and a big play. It seems like it's always Huffer when you need it. It's going to allow him to get an 8 damage this turn and really start to pressure Surrender. Surrender has to do something this turn, or he's going to be dead next turn.
Yeah, Explosive Trap is dealing 2 damage as well, so it will deny the hero power. And then hero power from Kranich means that Surrender is essentially at 4 points of health. So Kranich, even though he doesn't have any cards in hand, he's getting closer and closer. Something like Kill Command with a Beast, or even Quick Shot into something that deals damage. Arcane Golem, if he plays one, might be lethal next turn. So really tough situation for Surrender.
Absolutely, and I do like him actually getting the Grom returned back to his hand, because there's so many backdoor outs here with Piloted Shredder if you trade it. There's some taunt minions. There's some really good ways to take care of a 2/1 here. I got to think Unstable Ghoul is a card that he's really looking for to come out of his Piloted Shredder. So there's some really good stuff that can happen for him that way. He just got to pace his turn. Do I want to put this Frothing Berserker in play and start getting a real threat into play? Because the problem is Kranich is at 26, and Surrender has no quick way of closing this game out. You don't have Warsong Commander anymore to just end this game right away out of hand for 40 damage. So he has to actually beat him, the old-fashioned fair way.
Yeah. Oh wow, 3/4. Totem Golem. It's not bad. So instead of going for the Grommash, trading into one of the minions, he decides to use the hero power and leave the 2-1 and unleash the Hounds with 5, 7.
Yeah, that's going to be lethal. Yeah.
Is it lethal though?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh yeah, he's at 8. I'm sorry, the overlay. I couldn't see his armor. I thought his armor was at 1. As I say, so we're gonna be just one short of here. I think Surrender did the math on that, and because that's actually a little bit risky playing the extra minion there, like you said, playing 2 instead of playing just Grom. Had he played Doctor Boom this turn, he would have been dead though. It would have put the 3rd minion into play and then the 4th minion into play to actually kill him from Unleash the Hound. So nice play by Surrender, playing around that just a little bit, but. Can you pass this up if you're Kranich? Getting in this extra damage here, are you going to get a better Unleash the Hounds?
You probably have to go face, because if there is a second Sludge Belcher, you've seen double Armorsmith, but Unstable Ghoul is also a card that's in Green Patron, so just getting free damage from one card in hand is really good. And now with the 2-1, what is he thinking about? Can he? Oh, he can attack into Floating Berserker, so he has to calculate if there is any chance for the Floating Berserker to actually kill him. Because Explosive Trap is going to deal some damage. If there is one more Whirlwind effect, then that Frauding would be really huge. And killing the Frauding, even if it doesn't kill Kranich for the next turn, killing the Frauding right now might give Kranich 2 more turns to actually win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that move by Kranich there. Kind of take away another way for Surrender to win, because this does twofold for him. Yeah, he misses 2 damage here, but at the same time, it puts a lot of pressure on Surrender, because Surrender doesn't have another way to pressure Kranich's life total here. Now, Surrender is going to draw a lot of cards this turn. He has Acolyte of Pain. He can cycle an Inner Rage on it if he wants, if he doesn't want to use it as, say, a removal spell here, because he knows that's an explosive trap. He knows that his Frothing Berserker is going to die. So what he could do if he armors up and finds another way to gain life is he can attack with his Frothing Berserker here, use Inner Rage on his Acolyte of Pain, and then attack Kranich and get 2 more cards off of his Acolyte. But I don't know if he has room enough to use his life total that way, because then he'll only be at 5 after armoring up. So Kranich would only have to find any card in his deck that deals extra damage, a bow, a quick shot, or a kill command.
Yeah, I agree. This is a really dire situation for Surrender. I don't think he has much of life gain in the deck. He used double Armorsmith. This deck is normally not running Shield Maidens. Shield blocks do not happen. Animal Companion can finish the game right now if that's a Huffer. And that's a Leok. Kranich is not happy about that one.
Yeah, I think he needs to contact Blizzard. His Animal Companion was bugged. It didn't give him a Huffer, but...
You got a Huffer the first time, so it's not that.
Yeah, you got a Huffer the first time. So, he's 50-50, but usually you're 100, It's just always Huffer. What happened there? I don't even know what this card does.
It's so red, and it's gonna die really fast. So can Surrender can still win this game if Kranich continues to get blanks, because there is more and more damage on board. Grommash himself is a lot of damage as well, but he can't attack here unless.
Well, okay, so this. Oh, so you can get 10. You have 17 from Grom and from. Yeah, I was gonna say it matters how the boombots hit. They have to hit exactly correctly, and they did. I was gonna say he has to get big boombot explosions on Kranich's face, because he has 17 coming from Dr. Boom plus Grommash. Great paced game by Surrender there. That game was so close, and you gotta wonder.
Was it 100% lethal with the weapon? Maybe with the weapon. Let's quickly count. How much was there with?
Yeah, I think with the weapon and
25. How much damage? How much life Kranich had?
So 17, 18, 19, 21, 24. I think if the bombs roll for 1, I think he's 1 short, but I can't remember what the 5th creature was. So the 5th minion
Totem
was.
Golem
but,
with free attack. So
right. Okay. Yeah. So it was
25 damage with the bombs hitting for 1. So that was really excellently played by Surrender.
Yeah, absolutely. And we almost counted him out there in the middle. The game was looking really bad for him. He wasn't finding a way to pressure Kranich's life total. He had his Grom returned by a freezing trap, so it was 10 mana Grom to win there that turn. Grom's still good even at 10 mana. I'd still pay for that card at 10 mana in some spots, but we're going to have to see if he can get if Kranich can get back to his winning ways with his Hunter deck here, because he's going to queue it right back up.
Yeah, and Kranich yesterday had a really tough game versus Orange. He was losing 0-2, and he actually took the series. He was losing with the Shaman, then he swapped the decks, got the match to 2-2 score, and then won with the Shaman with his last chance. So Kranich is not one to surrender early.
Man, you just love that pun. I love it. But yeah, Kranich, I've seen him do a lot of reverse sweeps in my life. He's not the kind of guy to get down on himself in a match. If he's down 0-1, 0-2, I think he doesn't bother him at all. He seems to approach every game the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Surrender taking the Paladin this time. His Warrior is locked because we're playing best of 5 Conquest. So when he win with the deck, it's actually kind of eliminated from the match. And now the Paladin, what do we see? This is a secret Paladin because there is Noble Sacrifice. So it's not the standard mid-range that everybody else is playing with Murloc Knight. Noble Sacrifice is there. This means that it can have from 4 to, well, 6, 7 secrets. Right now, I feel like people favor less secrets in those decks.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of favored less and less secrets as I played the deck, because you do have to draw them, and that's a huge, drawback. Like, those cards are not very good when you draw them after, they're not very good anyway when you draw them on any turn, but definitely when you top deck them later in the game. It's an interesting build. I think this is the one that a lot of players have kind of been shying towards lately, since there's so many aggressive decks. They have a Sludge Belcher in their deck, and they have Consecration and True Silver Champion. Now, those sound like, oh yeah, they're Paladin, of course they have them, but a lot of the secret decks either play 1 or 0 of True Silver and Consecration now, so seeing both of them in Surrender's hand and a Sludge Belcher talks about how much he wants to be able to deal with all these aggressive decks that have like sticky minions that are coming out. These decks like Shaman that we're seeing coming in. You're going to play against Hunter and cards like that. So love the way he's built this deck.
Absolutely. Well, he can still play one-offs though. 1 True Silver, 1 Consecration, but double Sludge Belcher. It's something that's more and more popular because Sludge Belcher into Mysterious Challenger is so strong and so hard to deal with that people actually play 2 now. But looking at the current board state, it looks alright for Kranich, and overall I feel Kranich has an advantage as the Hunter versus Paladin. There is not that much heal in the Secret Paladin overall.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to get a lot of value off Freezing Trap in this match. Generally, they're going to have some real easy ways to take care of it. We're seeing Surrender get a lot of value off his Knife Juggler here. But Kranich has what is one of the most important cards in the matchup in his hand already, and that's Unleash the Hounds. Now, his hand is getting a little clunky now with the second Savannah Highmane. That's not what he wanted to draw here this turn. But Unleash the Hounds is the card that really helps this matchup a ton if you're a Hunter, because Paladin plays so board-centric. They're trying to get all their minions on the board and win that way. It's the only way they can interact, the only way they can really control you. And you just get these huge swing turns. Like, let's say Kranich picks up a Knife Juggler next turn, he's back in business. Otherwise, this hand is starting to get pretty clunky.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Even though the matchup should be favoring Hunter, this is a clunky hand with those Highmanes. And on the other hand, Surrender, he does have the curve. He doesn't have Mysterious Challenger yet, and he picks another secret, which is overall bad. You don't want to have that many secrets in the early hands. But Sludge Belcher blocking the attacks, True Silver Champion, great tool to deal with the bigger minions, and Consecration that will be amazing versus the Hyenas. That will be spawned from that Highmane at some point.
Yeah, I mean, his hand is actually just set up great to take this game from here. He's got Belcher for next turn. He's got the Consecration to clean up after, Highmanes, which we see that Kranich already has. Plus, Noble Sacrifice is actually one of your better secrets in this matchup. A lot of times it just comes down to racing at some point in time, because the Paladin player is going to try to control the board early as they can. And as you've seen that he's done pretty well in this game, Kranich is going to get in damage incrementally, but there's going to be that turn where you're just holding on for dear life and you've set up lethal for the next turn, and Noble Sacrifice can go a long way. It's almost like it can block, something that you can't do in this game. And it stops something like Argent Horse Rider or Arcane Golem for those last few points of damage that the Hunter player needed to win the game.
Absolutely. Well, even Highmane, just Kranich slamming Savannah Highmane next turn, Surrender can just spend 1 mana to deal with that. There is a kill command. Kill command doesn't do that much. So first Highmane is going to see the board. Surrender is still having all the tools he needs. And even Lotheb, oh my god, that's so big.
You said he didn't have the Mysterious Challenger yet, and I was about to emphasize the yet. It seems they always draw it on turn 6. He didn't draw a Challenger, but he drew something almost as good, if not better, in the situation. Because now he doesn't have to worry about Unleash the Hounds this turn. Because if Kranich were to have something like Knife Juggler Unleash the Hounds here and attack your Sludge Belcher, that would be a huge game for Kranich. But now we're seeing what we talked about earlier. Yeah, it's just a pure race, and this is going to be it.
Yeah, True Silver. He had Consecration as well. Surrender has everything, and so fast to get a lead over Kranich. And I don't know, man. Kranich really wanted to play this match because yesterday Surrender didn't show up. Unfortunately, he was unreachable. He is here today, and he is in great shape.
Yeah, maybe Kranich regretting that a little bit. No, I really don't think he is. He's a gamer. He likes to have everything be fair. But as you said, he was down 2-0 to Orange yesterday and won the match 3-0. And I've seen him do multiple reverse sweeps, actually casting matches of his before. So I don't think this is going to bother him one bit. He's got his coffee. He's ready to go. And maybe we'll get to see the Shaman deck from him. I'm actually really interested to see it. I'm glad that the deck is playable again. For a while, it seemed there were only 8 classes in Hearthstone. And yeah, Kranich does what I wanted. It looks like we're getting some Shaman this round.
Yeah, there is a Shaman, and there is a Malygos Warlock from Surrender. And I don't know if you saw the match yesterday, but Orange brought Malygos Warlock, and that was his downfall. Kranich was able to 3-0 that Malygos Warlock. He might do it again. Let's see if he is actually going to succeed to kill Malygos Warlock 3 times.
See, now, Kranich's lineup is actually pretty good against it. He's got a lot of really aggressive decks that can punish Surrender for having even a remotely slow draw. If Surrender doesn't draw one of his AoE cards, like, say, Hellfire, and Kranich has a fast start, there's no way he can win the game. Kranich will just run him over. And I love this play from Surrender. Just get the Abusive Sergeant into play. If you can trade this for a card, you've got to feel great because the rest of his hand is very bad and very slow.
Yeah, it's... Oh, man. Well, Abusive Sergeant was a great play to deal with some early creatures. Unfortunately for him, he can't deal with the 3-4. But the rest of his hand is absolutely terrible. That Twilight Guardian is something, especially because he has a dragon. But it's still far, far away from being played.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the Abusive Sergeant play because look how good it was against the rest of Kranich's hand. If he doesn't have a Totem Golem here, he could have traded for any of the other minions in Kranich's hand. And if you get to trade an Abusive Sergeant for a minion on turn 2, you've got to feel like you're pretty far ahead and that it's helping your hand out a lot. And Surrender gets a pretty good draw this turn. He does get a Dark Bomb, and he's going to have to really think about how he wants to pace this game here. If he can Dark Bomb this turn into Twilight Guardian, into Blackwing Corruptor, it's a pretty big game. Like, he'll be able to handle a lot of what's going on from Kranich. The goal for Surrender here is he wants to keep his life total as high as possible and then have the best hand possible going into turn 6 to Emperor Thaurissan and then try to end the game quickly after that.
Absolutely. He is thinking right now if not to play Big Hunter, so he was trying to count how many mechs there are in Kranich's deck. So what is the chance that this Cogmaster is actually going to deal with the Big Hunter? Because Big Hunter will not be needed. Overall, there are no targets in this Shaman deck, I believe. So the card is still just going to be a 4-2. If you had a chance to play it, that was something you could do. But then he might not be sure if there are Fel Reavers in the Shaman deck, because in the previous iterations, normally you had them. We haven't seen them yesterday, so I think Kranich is actually not playing any Fel Reavers or anything that's actually targetable. But if Surrender is not sure, it's probably better to use the Dark Bomb here.
Yeah, I think it is actually just better to use the Dark Bomb here, and because of the reasons you just mentioned. You didn't see Fel Reaver possible yesterday, but if I didn't know for sure, I would put Kranich on possibly having one. Plus, the upside of just having an out to those cards is better than just playing it that turn and taking extra damage. I think just taking care of some of Kranich's board there and slowing him down even any amount you can is a huge play. Now, Kranich does actually get to get a Whirling Zap-O-Matic in play and hopefully protect it, but the Blackwing Corruptor is going to be able to take it down here because Doomhammer Rockbiter represented a ton of damage.
Absolutely. And for now, it seems that even though Kranich has some kind of board and is pushing with damage, Surrender is getting back in shape. He has that Corruptor in play, which will be able to deal with the Divine Shield from the Aneurtron. He has a second Corruptor, and he has a heal bot, which is really important to be able to play later. If he picks up something like Brand Bronzebeard, that's 16 heal.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring that card up because I'm guessing this is the purple deck that he won the tournament with a few weeks ago that has gotten just so popular now. And I have seen the gain 16. I've seen the draw 2 cards off Azure Drake. I haven't seen anyone steal 2 secrets yet, which I really want to see. But because it can actually happen in this matchup. Yeah.
There's even more with Dark Peddler, with Twilight Drake's double health, and so many interactions. I think like even if you haven't seen DreamHack Winter, if you want to play Malygos deck, you just have to play Bran. Bran is just so good. Even if you hardcast it on turn 3, at 2-4, that just has to be dealt with. Kind of has like Super Taunt like Thaurissan. You just cannot have Bran on board.
All right, now Kranich can push a lot of damage here this turn. He has a Doomhammer with a Rockbiter weapon, so that's 10 and then he has 3 more power in play, along with Leper Gnome representing another 2 behind this. So he's got to figure this out. And he has a lot of weapons in his hand now too, because if he plays Doomhammer, that means the Power Mace is not going to do anything for multiple turns, and you saw him kind of sit back in his chair because that was probably one of the worst draws in his deck at this point. Just a card that doesn't do anything, and he's trying to find those last few points of damage to get through because he knows what he's playing against. He knows there's probably anti-Keelbot or something like that on the other side of the table, and that if he does make this huge push this turn, that it still might not be good enough. And you're going to see him actually exercise some caution here and start taking care of Surrender's board.
Absolutely. And he got a good totem as well, because this totem is protecting the Annoyatron, so he will be able to pack a bit more damage. And not playing Doomhammer makes sense. He is having that mech. If he gets a second Rogue Biter, then maybe even more damage next turn. So interesting to see. And Kranich is actually running 4 weapons. So yesterday we've seen him having all 4 of them, and that was the game he lost.
Yeah, that seems to be the downfall of this deck. Whenever you draw the extra weapon when you have one in play already, it seems to slow you down just a little bit too much. This deck is reliant on its draws to get it there at all times. You don't always have the most play out of this deck. You just kind of have to hope and pray at some point in time that you're going to draw the right cards at the right time. I do like the line that he took because he gets some value out of his Power Mace this turn. And now that he has Doomhammer behind that, it's a big finish behind here. And now he's got a Crackle in his hand too as well. So he's saving up a ton of damage in his hand. But Emperor Thaurissan is really scary.
Can he afford to not kill Thaurissan? Because one of the best lines of play here, obviously, is just to go face with Power Mace and then go face with the Annoyatron, dealing 6 damage, putting your opponent at 10. And with the heal bot, that will be 18. So you still have a hard time with the Crackle if there is a heal bot. But you have a minion on board. And if you go into a trading business, what happens there? Thaurissan, it's 7 damage.
Yeah. So you have to weigh some options here, and this is where the players really make their money that are good with aggressive decks, because it's so scary to leave Thaurissan into play for multiple turns. But here's the thing. If you do leave it in play, it's very unlikely that Surrender gets to use the the extra mana that comes off of it, because one of you is going to be dead on the next turn. So it's not like he's going to actually get the second discount. Like, it will happen, but you're not guaranteed to get it through. Now, I was supposed to say, yeah, he gets to actually use the Wind Fury here. This is a pretty cool play. When you attack with Power Mace and then actually make a Doomhammer, it still gives you Wind Fury, so you're able to attack with the Doomhammer. Now, if Surrender heals this turn,
that was actually
Kranich can still... Yes, Kranich can still be able to deal enough damage to kill him here. So this is what I was talking about. I think you do leave the Emperor Thaurissan into play because you can push so much damage and force Surrender to have to do multiple things to stop you next turn.
I think that turn mostly shows why Kranich is so good with Shaman. That was the biggest amount of damage he was able to deal, and with Crackle, that's 4 damage right here with the Doomhammer. So with the heal bot, it will be 10. So 6. He needs to hit 6 with Crackle, which is possible actually.
Yeah, and so this totem is actually representing a huge threat to Surrender as well. He has to kill this totem. You cannot leave the spell power totem around. It might be the difference in killing you. It might be that 1 extra point of damage that gets through and actually finishes you off. That's actually the scariest one they have at this point in time in the game, and you should never leave that one sitting around.
All right, there's Corruptor and the heal bot, and I think Surrender can just deal with both Totem and Annoyatron. But if Crackle hits for 6, that's it. Oh, now Crackle just needs to hit for 5, and Kranich can still get some damage. And
yeah,
that's
now
Crackle.
yeah.
Is that a 4?
It does the minimum amount here. Only 4. Kranich sits back in his chair. Can't be happy with that one, but he does get a Leper Gnome into play and puts Surrender to 2 here. So not all hope is lost just yet.
Oh man, this happened yesterday as well. He was playing versus Orange, I feel, one game. He just needed to hit for 4 with Crackle, and he hit for 3.
Yeah. Now, I don't hate the attack from Surrender with the Ironbeak Owl, because it set up a lot of ways for him to get lethal this turn, and that's what he thought was probably the better play. He already had the Malagos in his hand and the Azure Drake, so let's say he draws Soulfire. He actually has lethal that turn with attacks, and then Soulfire you with Malagos, or he could Azure Drake into, like, say, Dark Bomb, attack you with all of his minions, and then Dark Bomb to finish off Kranich. So I like that play because you're playing to win instead of playing not to lose, which is generally the better way to be playing games.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Surrender's play there, but Kranich came on top with the Shaman deck, and now choosing Hunter or Paladin, and he was able to win with both of those decks versus Malygos Warlock yesterday. Let's see if he is able to do it again. What do you think? Do you just doesn't matter which one you take, or do you just take the more favored one, which is probably Hunter?
I think it just doesn't matter. I mean, you've got to win with both of them. Maybe you want to take the one that's a little more favored because it'll make you feel a little better going into the third game. You have a little more, the fifth game. You'd have a little more momentum. You're a little more confident in yourself. But you do have to win with both. So I personally would want the harder match first, and then kind of relax in the last one and be like, yeah, this is my better matchup. If I get a decent hand, this should be easy. And, you brought it up. This is what happened to Orange yesterday against Kranich. Do you think this was Kranich's plan? He's like, if I win one of the first two games, that's fine. If not, I'll just get down 0-2 versus Mallylock again, and I'll just 3-0 it.
It's really hard to say. Like yesterday, what he did, he got the good matchups first. So coming into game 5, he was the one who was winning. He was the one who was 2-0 versus Orange's deck, which was 0-2 at the time. But I think like both matches were actually fine. Let's see if he's able to stabilize with this mid-range Paladin. He is running Keeper of Uldaman, one of the new cards, which is really cool. And it helps dealing with the bigger targets, some bigger targets that this Warlock deck is actually running.
Yeah, I love Keeper of Uldaman because it's such a flexible card. You can use it on your own minions, like say one of your hero powers to make it a 3-3. Or if Surrender makes a giant, Twilight Drake or something in his game, you can just make it a 3-3 and take care of it. It's also, it could be an aggressive card, it can be defensive, it's super flexible, but double Zombie Chow from Surrender is what he wanted to see in this matchup. This is the kind of hand you want with Malygos Warlock. You have an early board presence to control the board, and now you're just free to tap for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And this hand is so much different than the previous hand that he got, because last time he was starting with all the big cards in the hand. And this time it looks pretty good, I have to say, with Farseer if he chooses to play it, Twilight Drake already there as well. And Kranich uses the weapon already, but he has some tools as well.
Yeah, that's not the way you want to be using the weapon in this match. Anyone who's ever listened to me talk about Paladin, I'm a huge fan of Coghammer. I think it's one of their best cards, especially in the metagames that are going on today, but that's not the way you want to be using it. It does clear out a Zombie Chow, but you get no extra value from it. So you just paid 3 mana for a 2-attack weapon, and that's way below in the power curve than you need it. And I gotta believe that Surrender is gonna possibly get on board a little more this turn. Yeah, he's gonna use the Earth Ring Farseer, just help protect his life total. He doesn't need the Twilight Drake to be gigantic in this game to win. He realizes that Kranich's hand is a little slow to the board, and that he's got a big advantage here, and he's just gonna press it. This knife could be pretty good for Kranich here, but he gets the worst outcome. It actually goes to face, so he can't use his weapon to trade for either of these minions.
I like how Kranich reacts to bad RNG. He's mostly smiling. He's like, didn't get it this time. And I feel like this matchup is actually good for Malygos. Even though Kranich won it yesterday, the long game should favor the Malygos deck because, as you mentioned, it can tap and also can accumulate the combo parts, Dark Bomb, Soulfire, Malygos. So if it deals some amount of damage and if it stays alive on board, it can just win in one turn with big Malygos burst.
Oh yeah, you're exactly right. It's like we talked about in the game before this. They're looking to get Emperor Thaurissan if Malygos in their hand. He's already got a Soulfire. You get that kind of hand, you play the Emperor Thaurissan, and then you generally can win on turn 8, 9, or 10. He just needs to find those other pieces. And luckily for Surrender, Kranich, doesn't have a lot of ways to pressure him, and his build of Paladin generally isn't going to pressure him too much over the first 4 or 5 turns, unless something really weird happens, like Kranich gets an amazing opener and Surrenders is really bad. So you're right, it does favor the Malygos lock here because they're not under a ton of pressure that forces them into playing super fast to the board. They can just stockpile all the resources they need.
Oh man, there's a second Soulfire. This deck normally runs only one, but if you get the second one, it's really good. But he might actually decide to get Flame Whip as well to pressure a bit more, because sometimes you don't even need Malygos. If you have this damage in hand, if you can pressure Paladin, maybe just normal minions, normal spells just win you the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get the Paladin player, you can get your opponent, either whatever class they're playing, down to the 12 to 15 life range. They are in threat of dying. You have Dark Bombs, Soulfires, Hellfires, things like that. You can burst them out as early as like turn 8 or turn 9 when they're not expecting it. So I wouldn't be super surprised to see him take Flame Whip, though I think he's waffling between Flame Whip and Soulfire here. It's going to be interesting to see which one he takes, because whichever one he takes, is going to give you a lot of information on what he thinks the rest of the game is going to play like. And I like taking Soulfire because it's a little safer. If you take Flame Imp, play it, and Kranich somehow punishes you for it, you feel like you gave away a card.
Absolutely, and double Soulfire with Malagus in the future is like 14 points of damage if you don't discard the second one. So that is really threatening, and this gives you a bit of peace of mind because now you're playing this game still to win with the minions, but you do have that fail-safe plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Surrender, he is a little bit under some pressure now. Kranich finally went a little wide here with Paladin, and if they don't have an AoE effect like Hellfire, this is a really good strategy against him because this makes cards like Dark Bomb not as good. Mortal Coil's fine, but if they just play one big minion like a Twilight Drake and you just make a bunch of 1/1s, it's actually pretty good for you because they can't just keep answering you one for one here. And then he has a Dr. Boom behind this, so Kranich is getting back in this game. Surrender's going to have to figure out how it is that he takes care of this board and starts to find a way to win because he's starting to get into the scary turns from Kranich's deck. There are things like Dr. Boom and Tyrion waiting.
Absolutely. There is one more thing that's really threatening as well when you have so many dudes on board. That's the Quartermaster, and right now Kranich actually got it off the top, so he can dude up and play Quartermaster instead of Dr. Boom. This is one of the turns where you normally think a lot if Dr. Boom is still the best play. It still might be, but you do want to consider Quartermaster because that is a lot of damage on board.
Yeah, I like the Quartermaster play this turn. It's never going to be better. Like, you've already used one of your muster for battles, and it's like you said, it's so hard to pass up Dr. Boom on turn 7. I mean, Dr. Boom is green, you go. That's what everybody always says, but I gotta believe that Quartermaster is a better play here. Now, the real question is, do you trade in and then attack? And I think you have to because you have to respect a card like Hellfire.
Yeah, absolutely. And Surrender was life tapping to get that Hellfire, so he has a good chance. Even if he doesn't draw it right now, he still has one more tap to get it. Does he need it though? Twilight Guardian is a really good card to deal with the free health minions. With Brown Bronzebeard, it actually has 4 attack, but maybe Brown can be used for something else. Brown Bronzebeard is so good. With Twilight Guardian, with all those cards, Azure Drake drawing 2 cards, Dark Peddler drawing 2 cards, Healbot healing 16. So Surrender has all the tools to sustain and just to survive in this game. So is he even threatened by those minions here?
No, I think you made a really good point. The Brand's Bronzebeard is going to be like kind of a safety net here, and I doubt that he puts into play this turn as he puts into play. I'm very surprised. I don't think I would have risked it getting killed because I think you need to anti-Healbot for 16 next turn, but maybe Surrender has a different plan going on. I would be a little hesitant in putting him into play and risking losing it this turn, but if you do lose it, that means Kranich had to put 6 damage into a Twilight Guardian and attack your Brand's Bronzebeard, so it is like you're gaining a bunch of life, so maybe it's actually better to play it this way.
Yeah, I think it's fine, especially because it's Paladin. Like, Paladin normally doesn't have that much plus damage. You've seen one Consecration already. Unfortunately for Surrender, Kranich has all the tools to deal with this board right now with True Silver Champion and those recruits as well. But I can understand the risk of putting Brown Bronzebeard to play before.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it gains you life, and it kind of takes away Kranich's turn, but Kranich has a really good, clean answer to it this turn if he wants, but he's actually going to forego using the True Silver Champion. He's just going to go ahead and use his minions and a little bit of his face here. He doesn't have to use the True Silver Champion yet, and that gives him a little more reach for later in the game that Surrender doesn't necessarily know about yet. Like you said, the Paladin decks don't have a lot of that.
Yeah, they don't have burst, and True Silver Champion is the main burst spell. Right now, there is still no Hellfire, so Surrender needs to deal with those cards somehow. How much damage is there incoming? 6 plus 4, that's 10. So Kranich slowly getting there with the damage, but there is obviously Healbot as well. So still a tough matchup.
He finally picked up a Hellfire here, but he's getting to the point where Hellfire is not going to be that great anymore. Kranich's board is getting big. He's got minions that have more than 3 toughness. And Surrender's in this weird spot where he's looking for cards in his deck. Like, he's looking for Emperor Thorson, he's looking for Malagos. Those cards pretty much in the game on the spot if he can find those 2 and survive. But that's the problem. He's having to do both. He's having to survive what Kranich is doing and deal with his board while looking for those cards. And it's a pretty tall task right now because Kranich's hand is great. He's got a Dr. Boom behind this and a True Silver Champion. He's going to be able to put on a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. And also the True Silver Champion for the Azure Drake, so he can do whatever he wants, even Sylvanas. Surrender, if there is a Dr. Boom being played, Surrender has to draw a Big Game Hunter, and a lot of decks play two, a lot of Malygos decks, because you do have those Abusive Sergeants to actually bump the attack to be able to use the Big Game Hunter. But yeah, he is missing Malygos, he is missing Torison, and those Soulfires are not that reliable at the moment. Like, even if he gets Malygos and Torison, there is still a chance that Soulfire will discard his Soulfire.
And so Kranich is actually going to use this True Silver Champion to take care of the Twilight. Drake here, can't blame him. That's a scary minion to leave sitting around. It's so much value for Surrender's deck. And Surrender's running into that problem that you see every now and then in these decks too. He has a Blackwing Corruptor here, but no Dragon. So he's not going to be able to get any value off that. And he has this Hellfire, which isn't going to do a whole lot on this board either right now. Though he does tap into a Dr. Boom, but the problem is, can he play this and not die?
It's Paladin, so you've seen one Consecration. The biggest burst card is on the board right now. Quartermaster kills you, but one is on the board already. Consecration kills you. I think you don't have a choice. You just have to risk it here. The Risk Keeper...
And that's going to do it. Keeper Voldemort is lethal. It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Exactly 12 from Kranich here. And it looks like he's in pace to do exactly what he did yesterday. You might have called it a little early here, Nimsh. I mean, you called the Quartermaster draw. You talked about how Kranich was down 2-0 yesterday and 3-0 from there. And it looks like it's going to happen yet again here today. I do like the play that Surrender made last turn. You just have to play the Dr. Boom, like you said. I mean, there's no better play. Yeah, you can take care of a minion or two, but where does that really get you?
Yeah, absolutely. I like Dr. Boom, but unfortunately for Surrender, Kranich got the card he needed there to take another game. And yeah, now Hunter versus Malygos Warlock. If Surrender doesn't pick up the Zombie Chows again, he might be in big trouble versus that Hunter build.
Oh, you just hit the nail right on the head there. He needs that. If he had that same draw from this game against Kranich's Hunter deck, I think that he probably wins pretty easily because he runs Kranich out of all of his resources very early. But since Kranich's hand was more like mid-range centric last game, the Zombie Chows didn't do enough. You know, they did a lot early, but they didn't do enough against, Kranich's 4, 5, and 6 drops. And that's where Surrender's deck kind of let him down. An early Dark Peddler is not a terrible card against the aggressive Hunter decks. You could probably pick up something like Mortal Coil, and it adds a 2/2 to the board. Ironbeak Owl, decent early answer. So he's got some early interaction, which is good for Surrender, but you got to think he's feeling a little pressure here, right, Nimsh? I mean, he was up 2-0, he's lost 2 in a row, and now you're playing against a Hunter, which traditionally can give Warlock fits.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Normally, players can be mentally distressed after losing 2 games, but I've been watching Surrender and Kranich before, and those guys are, they're playing 1 game at a time. Even if they're losing, they still have good mental state. If you look at Surrender, he doesn't look that stressed. He's like, okay, this is this matchup, and I might have trouble, but he's not thinking about losing games before. He is really thinking about this game specifically.
Oh, wow. So Elven Archer is actually insane in this matchup. It acts as another Mortal Coil. Yeah, it doesn't draw you a card, but it's so good against cards like Haunted Creeper and Abusive Sergeant. So he has the Elvish Archer and Mortal Coil if he wants this turn. And he's a Bronzebeard. He can get a 2 damage Elvish Archer if he wants it. I have not seen that one yet.
That's a cool interaction, really. And I think Bronzebeard might be the play here, because if you just go Elven Archer and Mortal Coil, yes, you're drawing a card, but it does not achieve that much. So Bronzebeard versus aggro decks, a 2/4 that just has to die. And if it doesn't, it will enable some cool plays.
Yeah, it's just like you said, this card has to die. Like, Kranich has to respect this card. He's going to play an Animal Companion. I will say Huffers are pretty good when it gives you a clean answer. So here's the question. This is the big part of this matchup. Do you Smark or do you trade? And as I say, I got to favor trading here. You can't leave Bronzebeard in play. Like you said, it's just too scary and too powerful. Now,
I absolutely agree.
Go ahead. Yeah, this is the kind of matchup that this is the kind of game that Surrender wants to happen. He wants Kranich to be trading as much as possible early and not attacking his face and his life total, because he needs his hero power to actually do something later in the game. And if Kranich comes out aggressive, then he can't use his hero power. If you can ever set up board states where the Hunter deck has to use spells to take care of your minions, like if they have to use quick shots or kill commands on your minions, that's how you win this matchup. I've found that if the Hunter deck has to do like something like kill command a minion, it's so hard for you to win. You just can't win anymore.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But on the other hand, looking at Kranich's hand, he has Shredder on 4 and he has Hyman on 5. And if I learned anything watching Hunters versus Warlocks before, is that high main is really good. It's a big minion and it's hard to deal with. And there is the silence for that high main, but Shredder is also a silence bait. So we will see how it turns out. For Surrender, I wanted to mention that he didn't have any dragons, but that Azure Drake is actually pretty good. It will enable Corruptor on turn 5.
Yeah, that's going to be big. The Corruptor is going to be able to challenge this this Shredder very, very well. And I love the point you made that he has Shredder into turn 5 Savannah high main here. That's the reason why Kranich has played this game the way he has. That led him down the line of, yeah, I can afford to trade here. And ooh, he gets a pretty bad minion out of his Shredder here. You're getting an Echoing O's and you don't even get the second one. That feels real bad, man.
Yeah, something with free attack will be amazing, but right now this high main can be easily challenged, and there is that silence, so Surrender in a very good position to actually get this game under control. And still, I'm looking at that heal bot, even though the damage is being done, it's not that much, and heal bot can equalize that.
Yeah, I mean, Surrender's hand is practically perfect from this spot. He has all the answers that you can want. Like, having the silence here is so big if he wants to take care of his high main. I gotta believe you do. Kranich's hand is actually pretty bad going forward from here. This explosive trap is kind of a dud. These kill commands, your opponent's at 24. They're not gonna do a whole ton. And you have this Unleash the Hounds. If you ever get a lot of value off Unleash the Hounds, you're probably dying. Like,
yeah.
If Surrender has a bunch of minions in play, you're probably not gonna be living. So his hand is pretty rough from here. So I like what you're saying, that Surrender is just, he's trying to figure out, how do I lose from here right now? Because he's got to feel like he's a big favorite.
He doesn't even have to trade his Corruptor into the high main. Just going into the silence, then he has 4 mana. He can play Elven Archer, deal 1 damage, Dark Bomb, deal 3, and then Coil, draw a card. It's a pretty good deal. And 5/4 still is not contested on board. It can trade into whatever. Is there any merit into dealing with the Beast? Oh, he's actually going for no silence here. Interesting.
Yeah, he's gonna actually just use the Mortal Coil for 2 damage here. Now, this draws him an extra card and gets him an Azure Drake in play. Being at 24 with a heal bot, I don't mind this play from him. He did draw a second big game hunter. That's kind of a bad draw for him. There aren't a lot of targets in Kranich's deck. He may have a Doctor Boom, but you don't want to have 2 big game hunters here because they're not going to do a whole lot. The rest of his hand, he's got a couple ways to deal with these early things. Something like Hellfire off the top would be great for him here.
Absolutely. Well, it seems like he really wanted to cycle the cards with the Azure Drake, using the first Mortal Coil and second Mortal Coil in here as well. And the secret, this can be a freezing trap. So that's why he's playing Healbot now, and he probably will not attack with Azure Drake. If that's a freezing trap, you do want to attack with the Healbot.
Yeah, great point there. You can use the freezing trap against Kranich. You can make it a liability by picking up your anti-heal bot and using it again. And this is what we were talking about earlier. Kranich is going to actually use his kill command on Surrender's face. He understands that in this matchup, he cannot afford to trade it for a minion here. He's not going to have enough damage to kill Surrender. And you made a really good point in the last turn that Surrender really prioritized cycling cards. He's trying to find a way to actually end the game.
Yeah,
him healing himself is not going to win the game for him.
He is in a very bad position right now because he hoped this is a freezing trap, and this is in fact not. What Kranich did clearly shows that it's not a freezing trap because he didn't kill the heal bot. And right now there's no heal for Surrender. There is another kill command and Unleash the Hounds for Kranich. So this game might be even over next turn with the damage incoming. He still has the weapon. He still has the hero power. That's 4 damage. It means he has to deal 8. 5 from kill command. 3 dogs can just finish this game right now and right here. So is there anything Surrender can do to not die to that combination of cards?
Well, he doesn't have heal, so he has to deal with everything that's on board in his mind, but he doesn't know that there's actually 12 sitting in Kranich's hand, like you said. So if he can find a way to trade off some of his minions and mitigate the damage from Unleash the Hounds, that's a way to get through, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do that. And like you said, this is unbelievable. It looks like Kranich is going to 3-0 Surrender after being down 2-0 here. This is just a mirror of what happened yesterday.
Absolutely, and Kranich is the king of comebacks. He just DMs for his opponents, 0-2, and then he just wipes them out. And he waited for Surrender yesterday. Surrender didn't show up. He showed up today. Kranich really wanted to play versus him to prove himself, and that's what I call proving yourself, to win from that position with all 3 decks.
Yeah, you've got to feel good about yourself if you're Kranich here in the last 2 days. He's been down 2-0 in 2 different matches, and he's been able to reverse sweep his opponents. As I said, being down 2-0 never bothers Kranich one bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now in this group, Kranich has 2 wins and Kolento has 2 wins. This is the first loss for Surrender, but obviously the group is not over. We still have 6 more matches for today. Tannen is going to stay with me for 1 more, and then we'll have Savit casting the rest. So a long, long day in front of us. So
yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a grind for you over there, Nimps. Are you up for it?
yeah, dude, like I'm always up for some Hearthstone and, fully casting now. So always happy to see more games and with League of Explorers as well. I really love the new expansion. It's so cool. And in World of Warcraft, I wasn't a fan of Brown Bronzebeard and the Explorers part, but in Hearthstone, I think it fits. It really fits.
Yeah, it's as I said, I'm very happy to admit that I was wrong about the set. That I thought it was going to be a little lackluster. All the cards have been great. Almost every card is being played. Like all the rares and and legendaries are getting played in decks. So I can't wait to see what happens. Next week when the next wing comes out. I mean, all these cards are great. I'm really excited to play with the camel. Like I really want to play with that card a little bit too. So I'm a big fan of League of Explorers, especially after what happened with the last set not being too great.
Absolutely. And by the way, the next match is something that you really wanted to cast. It's purple versus orange. Are you excited for that one?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there's a few reasons. Former teammates, they both used to be on Archon. I used to live in the Archon house for a little while, so I've lived with both of these guys. I have a little bit of inside information on the match that I'll bring up when we come back from our break and stuff. And I love watching friends play each other. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of laughing and funny plays and emotes going back and forth in the match. So I can't wait to see what these guys do to each other.
All right, man. I can't wait as well. But right now we're going to jump into a short break. So stay with us for purple versus orange coming up next.